Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Sorry this review is so late. This is a review for the new Grinch movie, the new animated remake that came out this year, that basically just recently came out. This review, I apologize, is very late. I started a new job within the last week or so, and so it's just one of those things where I'm kind of adjusting to everything, adjusting to the new schedule and all that kind of stuff, and it's going great. But as a result, I kind of got around to seeing this Grinch film rather late, so I do apologize for anybody who was kind of hoping to hear my review for this film earlier, but now it's finally here for those who still have an interest in hearing what I have to say about this movie. So, in this new movie, you guys, like I said, this is a third interpretation of The Grinch. The previous one's being called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This one's just called The Grinch. The first one was animated. It was like a TV special about under 30 minutes in length. The one in 2000 was with Jim Carrey, directed by Ron Howard. That was in live action format. That kind of took some liberties with the story, added some new elements, added more characters, added a sense of the Grinch going to Who-ville before Christmas and kind of seeing what he would do there and stuff. And so this third film, which like I said is basically an animated remake, it's the third interpretation, kind of plays around with what the second Grinch film did. It's more about the Grinch going to Whoville, what he does before Christmas, how he handles it, how he goes about interacting with the Who's, how he knows which Who's to talk to, which ones not to talk to, and stuff like that. So, for those of you who really don't know anything about the Grinch at all, I am going to go over some story synopsis as usual, like I do in almost all my movie reviews. This film's mostly about a green creature who lives up in a snowy mountain called the Grinch, and he lives next to a town called Whoville. He hates Christmas. He hates everything about it. He hates how cheerful everybody is. He's just a total grouch. He has a dog named Max that lives with him who really likes Christmas a lot, and Max is always trying to, convince the Grinch to try to be a part of Christmas a little more and stuff. So, the film goes over kind of like in the Jim Carrey version, why the Grinch does hate the Christmas holiday so much. So throughout the movie, he's just really getting sick of this holiday. So he decides to kind of plot this big scheme to take Christmas away from the Who's and Whoville. And so basically, he takes away all the gifts, takes away all those decorations, and then as Christmas approaches, he starts to really realize what it's about and kind of realizes what he did and all that kind of stuff. So that's really what the story of the Grinch really is about. So let's go over some positives and negatives of what I liked and didn't like so much about this new Grinch movie. For my positives of the Grinch, like I said, the Grinch's interaction with the Who's, I thought was a little more detailed, I guess, than what the Jim Carrey version did. In the Jim Carrey one, he would just like wear a disguise, find a way to kind of not stick out so much because he's green and everybody else is basically people. So in that one, he would wear a disguise whenever he had to go down to Whoville to do something. This one was more the Grinch being himself, going to Whoville, but he would bring like a wagon with him. He would bring Max with him. He would kind of use Max as a service dog. He really doesn't like the Who's. He really kind of, he has to use the same grocery store. He has to use the same mailboxes. He knows who to talk to, which ones to avoid. He knows if he talks to certain Who's, they're going to yap his ear off the whole day long, and he doesn't want to be a part of that. He doesn't like how some of them will sing Christmas carols to him, and they'll follow him around until they make sure that he hears that Christmas carol and stuff like that. So there's fun little things I thought they did whenever the Grinch was interacting with one of the Who's. Kenan Thompson has a role in this film. He plays kind of this Who that the Grinch tries to avoid at all times just because, like I said, he does yap his ear off. He really tries to push Christmas on him a lot. And so Kenan Thompson plays this guy that really goes all out with his house as far as decorations go, gets tons of gifts for everybody, always throws a big party for Christmas. And so the Grinch really wants nothing to do with that. And so they really play off of this fun humor of Kenan Thompson really trying to make the Grinch a better creature slash person, and the Grinch really does not want to do anything to do with that. So I really like that element of the movie. Max the dog, as usual, is a ton of fun to watch. I have yet to see a Grinch interpretation that doesn't use Max in a clever way. The animated one, the Jim Carrey one, and now this one all use Max, I feel, in really clever ways. So once again, fun uses of Max the dog. If you like Secret Life of Pets, this animation studio, Illumination Entertainment, made that movie too. And I feel like the things you might have enjoyed the best about the dogs in that movie work its way into this new Grinch film as far as how Max is handled and fun stuff involving him too. There is a new character in the film, and like I said, in almost all my movie reviews, I try to avoid spoilers. But I do want to tell you about this fun new character that really doesn't spoil anything. It just kind of adds another element to a certain story point that's in basically every Grinch interpretation. And this character's name is Fred the reindeer. Um, Really fun addition to the story. Once you find out kind of where Fred fits into the story, why Max ended up being the deer for the sleigh and stuff like that. I feel it was kind of a fun addition to the story. So Fred the reindeer was a lot of fun. He loves eating Christmas cookies. The Grinch tries to get him to hate presents and hate cookies and hate all the stuff about Christmas. And so Fred just wants a good snack every once in a while. He loves eating all the cookies whenever the Grinch tries to show him the Christmas cookies and stuff like that. So I thought Fred the reindeer was a very fun addition to the Grinch story. The film also really plays around with the fact that the Grinch has a very strange lifestyle. Whether it is Christmas time, whether it's the summertime, whether it's his birthday, the Grinch has a very weird lifestyle. The Jim Carrey one played around with this a little bit. This film kind of takes that to the next level. They really kind of go about what the Grinch does throughout the day when he doesn't have to go to Who-ville, when he can kind of stay at his mountain the whole day and stuff like that. I thought it was kind of fun. I like the idea of when he puts shirts on, it just kind of adds more fur to his green look. It's really not really a shirt that he puts on. It just kind of adds additional fur to what he looks like. So I thought that was kind of a fun, clever idea and stuff. So they really did go about the strange lifestyle of the Grinch, and I had a lot of fun watching that. This next point is either going to really make a lot of people happy or make a lot of people disappointed. I think for a lot of kids that might be kind of scared of the Grinch potentially if it came to the earlier versions. So if you have kids that really kind of were too scared of the Jim Carrey one or too scared of maybe the animated one, because it was Boris Karloff, the man who played Frankenstein in that very first Grinch. So I would say I'm leaning more towards I didn't like this, but I'm using it as a positive just because I can see why people would like this. This is kind of the nicest Grinch to date. He's kind of more frustrated with Christmas than he is going about hating it. In the Jim Carrey one, he had nothing to do with it. He really hated it. He went out of his way to make sure everybody knew that he didn't like it. And even in the very first one, he went out of his way to kind of really make sure Christmas got ruined for everybody. Not to say that this Grinch didn't do that, but this Grinch felt more like he was just frustrated with it. When they kind of go over his backstory, you sense more frustration than overall hate, like nothing to do with it kind of thing. This is more so frustration, and I think that's definitely where they go about with the Grinch in this. Is he's more frustrated with the holiday than he is hating it. So some people are going to really like that. Some people are going to be like, oh, that's not Grinchy enough. So I put it as a positive just because I can see how people could really enjoy something like that for this. But that goes into my next point. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was a very good Grinch in this movie. I thought the way he handled his voice, how you can tell it's him, but it's kind of a little different to fit the Grinch a little more. I thought it was a very fun Grinch that he played in this, so I really liked his voice role and what he did voice-wise to make the Grinch come to life. For my negatives of this movie, though, this film does kind of go through the motions a lot. Since this is the third interpretation of the Grinch, people like me, people who are older than me, have seen the animated and the Jim Carrey one millions of times probably by now. It does kind of go through the motions. When they do get to the part where he steals Christmas, it just kind of feel like, oh, here's the plot point you all know, here's this point you all know, here's this point you all know, and here's this point you all know too. It just kind of goes through the motions. It just kind of feels like it's doing a homework assignment rather than telling us a new or more clever way of getting those story points across. It felt like the laziest interpretation of the Grinch as a result. It's like, oh, here's the point you all know, here's this point you all know, and here's this point you all know too. And it just kind of felt like it was going through the motions at times. I also feel this is the most simplified and most uninspired Grinch to date. Though there's things I like about it, Fred the Reindeer is a great addition to the story. The Grinch's strange lifestyle was fun to watch, and it's fun to see him interact with the Who's a lot more. It just felt very simplified. It felt very like they didn't really spend a lot of time kind of figuring out what can we really do to make the Grinch different this time. It just kind of felt like we got to play it safe. We kind of want to do something different, but not something too different. And as a result, it just kind of feels overly simplified and overly uninspired as a result. At least to me, it did. And I really do feel this is the weakest Grinch movie to date. I really do like those earlier versions of the Grinch a lot better. Probably the very first animated one is probably going to always be my favorite, like it is for everybody. Boris Karloff really was kind of the perfect voice for the Grinch at the time. I thought they really kind of brought that Dr. Seuss book to life the best out of all three of these, because it did kind of stay true to the book the most in that version, and it was in length the closest version to what the book was like. The Jim Carrey one I thought was the most humorous of the three. I really like what Jim Carrey did as a comedic actor, bringing kind of a different interpretation of the Grinch to life. And I thought kind of his backstory and kind of how the overall story was handled, I thought was a little more clever in certain areas. This film, like I said, just felt a little simplified, a little uninspired. It just kind of went through the motion. So as a result, it's kind of the weakest Grinch movie, at least to me anyway, out of the three. And the film also does kind of just shrug at certain story points, like, oh yeah, he stole Christmas, but here you go, here's all your trees. Oh, here you go, it's just ruined your house. He broke into it. He took everything. It just kind of shrugs at certain points. It was just like the earlier versions kind of really brought that point down. Like it really kind of made sure that he kind of did something bad to make this all work out. And this one's like, yeah, he stole it, but let's just move on. It just kind of had that kind of attitude to it. To me, it's just like it just felt like a little lazy to me as a result. So. There's also a subplot regarding Cindy Lou's mom, and I really felt like it felt out of place. You got to do something different when you do a third interpretation of the Grinch, but the whole thing with the mom being a single mom and Cindy Lou tracking down Santa to make her life better, I thought that part was just, it didn't really fit a Grinch movie very well. Maybe it fit like a Hallmark Channel movie or something like that, but for a Grinch movie, don't know if it worked out so well. Also, the narrator's exit in the film is very unusual. Both interpretations of the Grinch before this one, at least all the lines from the Dr. Seuss book fit in somewhere in the story, and the narrator says them. I felt like there was just a point in time where the narrator of the film just kind of exited the movie and just kind of became irrelevant. Because in the earlier versions, all the lines from the book literally are in those versions of the Grinch. And this one, they go so far. And then once the narrator's done, like he's done, like you never hear that voice again. It doesn't narrate anything anymore. It just kind of exit in an unusual, strange, kind of lazy way. So I thought that part of the film wasn't handled very well either. So overall, I'm going to give this new Grinch film an 8 out of 10. I like this movie. I think young kids are going to enjoy it. I think families who like the Grinch story are going to enjoy it. For me personally, I thought the earlier two versions were better. I thought both the Jim Carrey version and the original animated one brought more to the Grinch than this film did. Really brought that story to life better than this film did too, I thought. So I like this movie. I don't know if it's going to be a Christmas classic for anybody. I do like it. I can see families enjoying it. I could send you out to see it, I guess, in a way, just knowing that it's not the best of the three. There's fun things and great things to like about it, but there's also a lot of things about it that just feel kind of lazy and just like they didn't really try too hard to make something very special or anything. So 8 out of 10, good movie, just not a great movie.